Good morning, girl. It's Sunday morning. Time to take a break. Time to get away before you start the day. Get informed, have a laugh, shed a tear. This time is for you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, girl.
Darcel, I want to welcome you to Good Morning Girl. Thank you so much for taking some time to be a guest today. I appreciate you as I continue to set sail on this mission to claim my professional freedom after 30 years of being in the broadcasting industry. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, I feel like I have a group of inaugural good girlfriends who are helping me launch this thing, and you are definitely one of them. Darcel Being is your handle across social media, and you are an identity and success coach. And your motto, or what you have listed in your bio, is quote, "You're not stuck, you're just loyal to an old identity." And I like coming across folks who are making a splash, making a difference across social media. Of course, you posted something that was so powerful, it went viral. And we'll talk a little bit about the difference between praying for something and praying from something. It really resonated with folks, which just kind of, set you ablaze, made you even more hotter than you already are with your mission and your ministry. So, a little bit starting with you and this whole idea of deconstructing what it is you knew spiritually or religiously growing up, how you sort of kind of broke free from that to come into the true version and essence of yourself physically, emotionally, relationally. When listening to your posts and going through your social media feed, I feel like it started with the childhood on up to adulthood and into a marriage at a very young age. Yes.
I think a lot of women can relate to just getting married super young and especially being in the church and all of the programming, good girl programming that goes into that. So just in a nutshell for me, got married very young, met my husband, I call him husband, in the church. And as I, as I went through this, what they call dark night of the soul and this awakening, really deconstructing what I had been taught about religion and really rediscovering God again through science this time. Everything about my old identity just fell apart. It crumbled. I ended up stepping down from leading worship for 10 plus years. I ended up moving through separation into divorce with my husband of, at the time, 14 years. And I really just shifted how I showed up as a mother, how I showed up as a woman, as a believer. Every single thing in my life just fell down in order for me to reinvent myself. And this time I did it through just this lens and framework of curiosity and understanding that it's okay to not know all the answers. What really matters most is, where am I going, right? What is my end goal? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And showing up that way changed truly, like, absolutely everything. Me as a mother, my husband and I, we are great friends to this day. I can call him and say, hey, can you watch the kids? Can you teach me that curry chicken recipe? Just everything, every relationship in my life completely changed once I deconstructed that old identity that was built on, religious programming and good girl programming, and all of those things.
Well, hold on, because you in a marriage, way in a marriage, double digits, some babies, and
Yes.
you, in a nutshell, you sort of kind of wake up and say, ah. So, but you have this husband who is, still, I'm assuming maybe tapped in, and so how do you go
hmm
about saying, husband, I'm kind of shifting and changing and moving, and this is where I'm at. How do you begin that conversation? Because you're blowing up your spot, but you're also blowing
Right.
up everybody else's spot and
Yes.
comfort levels and things of that nature. How did that go down?
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's exactly what you just said, conversation. So it started with really honest and raw conversations from a place of curiosity rather than a place of condemnation, rather than a place of me accusing or saying, well, why don't you make me feel this? Why don't you do X, Y, Z? I really sat with myself and started asking, what about him is reflecting my patterns, right? Because every single person is simply a mirror for our own patterns and behaviors. So whatever I'm seeing in him that I'm triggered by, it's actually showing me all the places in my life where I'm still betraying myself. So as much as we had a lot of very deep conversations where I would say things like, I feel like you don't pay enough attention to me. And everything shifted when I started asking where am I not paying attention to me? Where am I still neglecting myself emotionally? Where am I not showing up in urgency for my own needs? And again, he's a great guy. Great conversations we were able to have. And what it came down to, Courtney, I really realized that I can't say I love him and keep trying to change him. I can't say I love him and keep trying to make him something he's not, nor does he want to be. And the last conversation we had before I filed for divorce, he simply said, he was like very calm, very gentle. He just said, Darcel, I like who I am. Simple. I like who I am. And that for me was like enough to understand the greatest service that I can do is to free him up. The greatest service I can do towards myself.
Yeah.
100%. Love is sometimes letting go. And it's worked out beautifully because we centered peace and friendship in the marriage and also peace and friendship even in the divorce for the sake of the kids and for ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to say the kids, like how old were they and that adjustment, because a lot of people use the excuse and or crutch of if I didn't have these kids or we didn't have these kids or I don't want to, but kids are very observant and they know when you're not happy.
Yes.
And if they're old enough to understand,
100%.
they'll probably want their parents more so happy than apart than miserable together, I figure.
Right. Yeah, they were young. They were very young. Okay. I think my youngest was probably like, so 5, 7, and 9, probably 5, 7, and 9. And again, there was a lot of conversations in the house. And, I'm very grateful. It wasn't contentious. It wasn't a lot of arguing. It wasn't a lot of fighting. It was, for all intents and purposes, it was safe and it was good. However, I've learned from my father, good becomes bad when great is available. And that's what I recognize, where this is good. However, you're a good man, I'm a good woman, but we're not good for each other. It's not the highest good. And it's a disservice to him. It's a disservice to me to stay in something that we've outgrown. And it doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't have to be contentious. You can still center the friendship and love that you had in marriage, even through what I call uncoupling or completion of a marriage.
Wow. So this was a pivotal, crucial, fundamental stop upon the landscape of your becoming, your being, pun intended, at Darcel Being. So you were really like deconstructing and reconstructing at the same time. That or constructing at the same time. That's a real delicate, and I would say difficult challenge, because you're holding this space for yourself where you're setting you and everybody else free, but at the same time you have to lead into, okay, so what does this look like? And I think a lot of us are in this deconstructing phase, or it's upon us and we're entering into it, especially with the times we're living in with the administration over there in DC and all that comes with that. Black women in particular with the unemployment rates, and not just not having jobs, but how that affects our psyche and our well-being and our health and our mindset. So you're deconstructing, but having to reconstruct and build at the same time. How did you hold both those spaces for yourselves that seem to be polar opposites and oxymorons all at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, for me, it's always beginning with the end in mind and understanding that if I truly believe that God declares the end from the beginning, right? We read that in the book of Isaiah. If I truly believe that, then that means that my best life is a finished work. That means that there is a version of me that is already inhabiting this declared end. And for me, what I continued to do was uphold that as a blueprint. So I started asking better questions instead of like, oh, why me? Or, why did this have to happen? Instead, I would say, well, what is here for me? What is available for me? What is this here to teach me? What lesson can I learn from this? Instead of criticizing him or critiquing him or saying, it's all your fault, I started looking at, okay, what patterns is he revealing in myself? Right? Like, why did I choose the person that does XYZ as opposed to, well, why are you doing XYZ? No. Why did I choose someone who does these things? And again, he is a good man. And also it's recognizing that if I truly believe I deserve the very best in all areas of my life, it begins with giving it to myself. And that starts with the identity piece, holding the end in mind and then taking action that aligns with that version of myself, and also doing it very gracefully, very graciously, right? Because he had his own journey, and it was hard some days, and it was hard for the kids, it was hard for me. However, I understood that what was at stake was far greater than what I would be settling for.
Yeah. We're talking to Darcel. She is an identity and success coach who recently kind of went viral, not kind of, went viral with just a wonderful gem that she dropped some weeks ago now. And as I was scrolling, and as I scroll and I think about guests for my show, I just feel the everyday person like yourself, like me, really have the best stories. They stick and stay with you because they're the closest to your experience. We love our celebrities, but sometimes they're in a whole different world, a whole different dimension with the access and resources or even the troubles that they have. But right here in this space, the folks that you see every day that pop up on your algorithm and are still navigating and making their way through life, having these human experiences and doing their best to win and get on the other side of them, are the folks who interest me like yourself. And so when you talk about navigating that deconstruction, reconstruction from the end perspective, how you want it to be on the other side, that leads me right into this post that went viral, where you're talking about praying not for the thing or the experience, but praying from it as if it was already done and you were on the other side. And that's tapping way deep into the capacity to believe that it's already done. And we get into faith and pulling back those layers about neuroscience and how the mind also works, complementary to the spirit self. And people just really took that to heart and loved that message. What inspired you to sort of kind of sit in your car, turn on your, press record and share this and salt the earth with this?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, right, it was just this reminder. It was just this reminder that every single one of us, my father used to say, what is most personal is also most universal. And as
Oh,
I sat there, I was driving, and often I will do like a declarative prayer or affirmative prayer as I'm driving over my children, myself, my business, my clients. And I was driving, I parked, pulled over, went to get some beet juice, and I started thinking to myself, just there are so many powerful people, so many, I say Bible girlies and guys, who understand the power of God, right? They have the knowledge and also they have the know, but they aren't experiencing the know-how. They're not experiencing the results that they truly deserve and desire. And as I sat in my car, just kind of thinking about just how blessed I am and all of the things that have happened in my life and shifted in my life through the science and the spirit, understanding that relationship and the science of faith, believing and receiving, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do a video and just share something really simple about the difference between praying for something and praying from something. And I'll share the science behind that along with the scripture and just go from there. And I truly believe it was divinely inspired because I've gotten dozens of DMs and comments, and it's still going. The post is still going. And what I really wanted to accomplish was just a reminder that if you are somebody who believes in God, source, higher power, whatever you like to say, I say God, you 100% have access to the same power that is causing your heart to beat, the same power that's causing your lungs to inflate, the same power that is moving the oceans and the moon and the tides and the sun. If that same power is coursing through you, shouldn't we be seeing more results in our lives? And I truly believe that it is a bit of not having the science to back it up to understand how the brain works and how the brain is a natural manifestation machine. So I pressed record, I shared it. There was a little bit of fear, I won't lie, because I know that when we start talking about religion, people come out the woodworks with their interpretation. And that was truly what kept me from sharing more publicly about this work. I've been in this work now for 10 plus years, but I'd never actually shared until those videos. I share privately with my clients, but not publicly, because I'm like, I'm not trying to go to war with anybody's
Wow.
Bible. And
Yeah.
then First Timothy, this, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
So it's the dam broke. It broke you wide open,
Yes.
and for good. So pushing through that
Right.
fear was essential. And now we are here where
Right.
everybody is seeking, your insight and your teachings. And I just love how it's aligned with, the spiritual component, how it is aligned with neuroscience, and really how that works, because that for me explains why folks who we might not deem as good they still come into so much success and so much money, and they become trillionaires.
Yep.
And it's really not about them being a good person or being this spiritual person. It's about their
Right.
thinking and their doing. And so I love that
Yes.
you have both components working in tandem to
Right.
have, and experience the best results. So, as Black folks, we've just been so conditioned and steeped into doctrine and religiosity. So
Right.
as we kind of seek out something different, something new, and really we want to yield different kind of results. Some suggestions on how we go about changing, our language. I think it starts in the language, and it starts in
Yes.
redirecting yourself. And, maybe if you want to be this incredibly healthy person, it's you thinking about yourself being healthy. What would that healthy version of you do? Would you go work out? Would you take all your supplements like me? I make sure I take all my supplements. Pills are a headache to me. But if I'm this operating in this from stance, and I know I am this
Right.
healthy person from the inside out, you take your supplement. So is it really as simple as that, as far as the
Yes.
starting point?
It really is as simple as that, as far as the starting point, 100%. And for some people, it's recognizing the starting point. So, for example, you have the blueprint. You said, I desire to be this healthy person. And once you have the desire, you can then make a decision. So many people don't even get out of the starting gate. They don't get the desire because they waver and they waffle and, oh, wait, is this God's will for me? Well, is it not God's will? Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. So many people are afraid to own their bigger desire. And there's no shame, no guilt, no judgment, but there is information that we have been conditioned to be afraid of our own desires. Because if you are in control, if you are sovereign over your desire, then you can't be pushed and persuaded to fund and fuel and work for somebody else's desire. So step one is having a clear desire. I desire to be wealthy. I desire to be married. I desire to have children. I desire to be healed. I desire to have the money, the car, the fame, the fortune. And then step two, it's really deciding. So deciding as in, do you believe you are this thing or not? You can't be
Mm-hmm.
pregnant and not pregnant. There has to be a clear decision made. Do you believe that you are that healthy version, or don't you? And if you say, yes, I do believe, Lord, help me with my unbelief. If we can start with, I do believe, then the next step is, okay, let's develop the identity. So for you, it was, oh, that version of me takes supplements. For me, it was, oh, the version of me who is higher in her visibility and doing all the things, she shares polarizing content. She shares opinions that are going to spark commentary and maybe a bit of
Debates
arguments.
and
That's just what she
controversies.
does,
Yeah.
debates. Absolutely. And the more you do that, it's the more it becomes the default. And the neuroscience is it's the more you are actually training your brain and rehearsing for that future, which brings it into the present.
I love that. And so I don't want to miss how I think some people miss that this isn't just some, floating, fleeting type of, idea and or wish, because, there are a lot of things we want to be and do. And I really think in order for those things to come into fruition, you have to really be grounded in your authenticity and your calling and your anointing and your talents and your gifts, and how you've been uniquely wired and designed to do such. Because I think where people
Right.
get a little off kilter is when it's, I want to be a famous singer, but you can't sing. You see
That
what I'm
part.
saying?
That part.
So,
Say it again,
right. So
Courtney.
yeah. So tapping into what God and his universe and his creation, all his creativity has given you, would you say is key? Because some people stay off key their whole life because they're not
Yeah.
necessarily operating in what was meant for
Right.
them to yield the success.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. Every seed is not for every season. It's as simple as that. And
Yeah.
if you are saying that, oh yeah, I want to be a singer, however, you don't have that gifting, and also you don't have the nudge to go train, and also so on and so forth, then you get to ask yourself one of the most powerful questions ever, which is, who told me that? Like, where did I get that from? 95% of what people are operating in, it is subconscious programming that was downloaded between the ages of 0 and 8 or 9. So oftentimes if you say, oh yes, it's a singer, is that really, or were you told that at the family reunion because you saying, I believe the children are the future? Like, what is really the thing that you desire? You get to get very clear on, oh, it's because my grandma said that, or my dad, or my partner, or it's what I was raised up in religion to believe, right? Or culture. I was raised to believe that I have to be a basketball player or a singer or a lawyer or a dancer. Instead, you get very authentic, exactly what you're saying. What is it
Mhm.
that you desire to do? How do you desire to feel? Even more important than what you want to do, how do you want to feel when you think about the future, right? How do
Wow.
you want to feel?
That's good. That is good. I think we have our parents to thank, in particular, your dad, my mom, because they're going to be, if my mom was still here, she'd be early 80s. So she would be an older baby boomer, a younger silent generation. And I think after my father's passing very early on, they were only 52, and I'm 55 now. So I didn't know how young that was at the time. This is back in the late 90s. Um, I think she hit some kind of wall, and the writing on the wall was, there's something else. There's something else to
Right.
this. I am a widow at 52. She had like it's me and my brother, and we were in our 20s, and then but she still had a 14-year-old, and the youngest brother was 4. So she
Wow.
was, she had to figure that out now after being a housewife. They met in college, and he said, "This, and look here, I'm gonna take care of you, and this is what it's gonna be." And it was that, and then it abruptly ended. So she had to figure it all out, and that is when I remember her. Now, very early on, they were into the Fred Price, and he was very futuristic in his, preaching and things of that nature, and teachings. And then she moved into this whole idea of what they called then New Thought. And you can argue with it if you want to, but what it opened up for her was a path to thinking differently and thinking about how to redirect her life without her husband, without that support, without that
Yes.
foundation. And of course, I was right there, with her watching these programs, listening, and something sparked inside of me right around 2000. I think it was divine timing with the turn of the new millennial, and my daddy was gone. I was a big daddy's girl, and I was like, something ain't right here. It's got to be something else. So, with that, you really tap tap into to your dad introducing you early on to that kind of thinking. I remember my dad was a big Reverend Ike fan, if you will, and now he's resurfacing across TikTok with his messages that were very futuristic. You mentioned in a lot of your posts, is it Neville? Am I
Yeah,
saying that
Neville
right?
Goddard.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen now, and I remember hearing those back in 2000, and I'm like, we're still hungry and thirsty for these messages that really just went under the radar for so long. And now everybody's on TikTok like, yes. But you kind of had that exposure very early on, which is why I think you are uniquely postured in this moment, to be, that thought leader. Talk a little bit about that exposure by way of your dad very early on.
Yeah, it was exactly that. As I share in the videos, my father was a pastor in the 90s, and I mean he was a traditional fire and brimstone, like
Mm.
hellfire, very Pentecostal type pastor.
Got up in my
And
bones.
listen, fire, the upper room, yes,
Okay.
glory, like all of that is what I grew up in. And then he went through this massive awakening and got deep into Neville Goddard, into the New Thought movement, into a lot of the metaphysical nature of reality and these laws. And then Reverend Ike and Joseph Murphy, all of these people. And it was very interesting. There was basically a lot of conversations happening in my house, and that's what I grew up with and learned from and was shaped by. My father used to constantly tell me that curiosity is sacred. Questions are holy. Like, God is not intimidated by your questions, right? And that is not something we typically grow up with hearing in religion. It's just like, have faith and keep it moving. But my father used to constantly say, like, questions are great. And my father went on his journey. My mother and father met very young, 16, 17, in church. And it was a lot of contention, but also a lot of conversation, because my mother didn't go through an awakening at the same time. So as you can imagine, to go from Pentecostal pastor to like Neville Goddard and the imagination is God and all of these really out there thoughts, there was a lot of headbutting, but a lot of respect and conversation. So I grew up hearing both sides. And then, I went off to college, got saved, had my own journey. And then in 2020 or so, I went through my own spiritual awakening. And the only regret that I have is that my father was not alive when I went through my spiritual awakening. So when I was being shaped, I still had a lot of questions like, Dad, are you sure? Well, that's not what the Bible says. And then as I got saved, well, Dad, that's not right. You're wrong, because this is what the Bible says. And then as I went through my spiritual awakening, it was like, oh, Dad, I understand. I understand the beauty of God's plan, and God is in the cosmos and in the universe and in these laws. So yes, I was shaped very early by that new thought and metaphysical kind of learning the laws of reality. And then I married it with neuroscience and the actual ways that our brain works. And I have found this beautiful just marriage and this bridge between science and the quantum and God and Jesus and the universe. And it's been life-changing.
Absolutely, for me too. And I feel like if we could just put down, just for a moment, put down all the religiosity and the doctrines, and really realize that a lot of these works are all saying the same thing, whether it's the Course in Miracles, the Quran, whatever book you may read, the Torah. It is all saying the same thing, and it is speaking to a higher power outside of yourself that is also within you. And I think if we can just listen and not be so quick to debate and refute and condemn, and especially for us Black folks, if we tap back into our ancestry and that journey across that water, we brought a lot of that with us, and it was really downplayed and frowned upon and pretty much wiped out and extinct. But it really was a part of who we are, how we worship, how we exist. And I love when that algorithm pulls up folks who are really thinking through how to integrate, how to relax the religiosity and the doctrine just a bit, lean more into the ancestry and that V8 moment, like, huh? And really begin to integrate, a little bit of all of it, to come up with your secret sauce. And I don't think that takes away from whatever denomination you choose to be, because all of these books and works will tell you begins and ends with this personal relationship with God and how you interact with the universe, which leads me to all of this knowledge that you've gathered and these experiences that you gathered. Fast forward to 2026, as we are halfway through this year already. And now you're at a place where you're teaching it, where you're, talking about it, where you're creating safe spaces for folks to come together and and take the mask off and just be very real and organic and authentic. Talk a little bit about your role as an identity and success coach. How did you even come up with that? Because what I hear is so much, and I've even been challenged with having been a news anchor, a TV host, a QVC program host, a radio personality. I sing a little bit, I act. It's hard coming up with something that encompasses all of that, but I think you do a wonderful job. So talk a little bit about that and then these wonderful spaces that you've created. And I can't wait till one of them comes up because I'm a participant, honey. Pay my little money and I will be front and center.
Yes, yes. I'm so excited. It's exactly what you said. I wear so many hats, and what kept landing for me in my time of prayer, meditation, walking, and just sitting out in nature, just really understanding that our identity is really the foundation of it all. It is the nucleus. It is the core. It's our identity. And so I paired identity and success because at the end of the day, when you ask people what they want, whether they say, oh, I want money, I want love, I want fame, fortune, health, wealth, whatever it is, they want to be successful in these
Yes.
particular areas of life. And success means something different for every single person. However, we can all agree that it's success. And success for the stay-at-home mom might be growing zucchini in the backyard and making homemade banana bread, right? A Nara Smith coded. It all depends on what you've got going on, but we all simply want success. And the only way to have and experience success is to take on the identity of one who is successful, whatever that means for you. So I've decided to brand myself as identity and success coach because it really begins and ends with the identity and the spaces that I've created. As you know, I have the Shut the Hell Up masterclass. And what is the hell? The hell is fear, lack, uncertainty, any thought that tells you you cannot have what you truly deserve and desire. And in this masterclass, we're going into the faith of science, the science of faith, believing and receiving. And from there, I'm so excited, Courtney. Right now, the masterclass is sold out. We have over 250 people registered. I'm so excited.
Wow.
However, I have a super juicy 21-day challenge that's going to be coming up. I haven't announced it yet, but I'll announce it in the masterclass. And what we're going to do is it's 21 days, not of another course of more information, but it's pure identity and implementation. It's you walking the walk and talking the talk and retraining the brain for 21 days straight and getting live feedback and community, which is so crucial. If you want to hold an identity, there has to be a new environment that reflects back to you that identity that you've now taken on. In every Bible story, God tells somebody, get up, leave this land and go to this place. Why? Because in this new place, you can take on a new identity.
I love it. It's so juicy and delicious. I love it. I will be in the class, in that class, and I'm intrigued by the 21-day challenge. That's gonna be so good. So I am a follower, a fan, and a student, honey. I'm ready. I'm ready because even at this
Yes.
juncture in my life, when I feel like I've taken on a lot of wisdom and knowledge, the best teacher is always a student. So I'm always down for
Right.
folks who are walking paths that resonate with me and my spirituality. So I really love that. I want to round out this conversation with some nuggets to leave for our good girlfriends who are watching, who, may be a part of this now 600K, who find themselves in this space that maybe they've never been in before, or they've never been in before without a place to turn. And that being the workforce, especially my generation X, the best generation, we were very much conditioned to, you gotta get your education and getting out, and then you work your way up and you climb the ladder, and you find somebody to marry, and you have some kids, and you buy the house, and for young millennials on down, that construct is out the window. They're not having babies. They don't even
Yes.
dance no more. They don't look at each other. They texting. They don't know how to have conversation, look people in the eye. Where we had to kiss babies and shake hands and write letters and, physically drop off resumes and things of that nature. So we're finding ourselves in these spaces that are very, even if they are familiar, they're not holding the same kind of energy, because now it's very difficult to put your resume out there and just land a new job predicated on 20 years and you made it to this level, made it to that level. AI is picking resumes apart, and if you don't have the right language in there, they throw it out, and that stamp follows you from application to application. So how do we begin to say, oh my goodness, I not only have to reconstruct or deconstruct, I almost have to be born again. I almost have to be renewed
Right.
in something else. And I was just reading stats that black owned businesses, women black owned businesses in particular, are on the increase because these women are in their homes and they are cooking up new ideas. They're tapping back in. They're going back to their first loves and creativity. But that can be very scary because we're still having these human experiences, and the bank don't care nothing about you having, losing your job. They still want their money. The lights still, you got kids
Right.
to feed and so on and so forth. How do you sit in that place and allow for what is happening to happen, yet not get decentralized and throw you so off that you can't get back on track or find another track?
Right. Great. That is a very powerful question. And I think that is one question that a lot of people, as you said, are asking themselves. And something I always go to is twofold. I go to the scripture and I go to the science. And so I land on Mark 11:24, whatsoever things you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received and it will be yours, right? That is not predicated upon the economy. It is not conditional. Well, who's in the White House? Who's over here, there? It's not predicated on any of that. It's simply whatsoever things you're asking, believe that you have already received it. And then I marry that with the science, is what I would say directly to anyone listening who's in this position. You're then going to take that scripture and bolster it with the science, which tells you that there's something called identity-based motivation theory. And it simply states whatever identity you are holding, you are going to take actions that align with that identity. So if you sit with yourself and you get clear on the desire, right? What is it you're desiring long term? Well, I just want more money. Well, what does that look like, right? What do you want to actually be doing? You sit with that and then you go into the version of yourself who has that business. What is she doing? When she wakes up, maybe she has a good cry because she got laid off. Maybe she is upset and she does an anger release and all of these things. Then what does she move into? Does she send the email? Does she shoot her shot? Does she go network? Does she go to the workshop? Does she go to the yoga studio? What is it that she does next? If you are in that position where, again, it feels daunting and you're reading the newspaper, you're listening to all the news and TikTok and Instagram, you're going to want to also do what Neville calls a strict mental diet. And you are going to only consume that which aligns with the thing you desire. Because the more you take in all the things and the stats and the numbers, it's only going to feed the identity that you don't want. And I know that the pushback is like, oh, but you can't hide and you can't put your head in the sand. Right. My question is always, well, is it working for you to consume all this negative news every single day? Is it working? Do you have the job? Is the money here yet? If it's not working, we are invited to do something different and really protect the type of media we are consuming, especially when you feel you are in dire straits or, at rock bottom. Be so very mindful of what you are taking in, because all of that stuff, it seeds and it trains and programs the subconscious mind, which is your most powerful weapon when you are moving through a hard time. Your subconscious mind is the key. Protect it at all costs.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, that's why, COVID or the pandemic was such a big deal, because people could really not sit with themselves. I had no problem. I still had to go into work as a news anchor. But thereafter, work was done, where normally I would have to sit in that newsroom or go out and file a report or go interview. Honey, I was up at what? I was at work at about 2:30 in the morning. I was back in the bed by 10 a.m. I loved it,
Wow.
masked up, and got my groceries and supplies because I have always enjoyed my company no matter where I am in my life. My mom
Right.
taught me that. Always enjoy your company. Put the things in your home that you enjoy so you don't have to go anywhere else to entertain yourself. And even now, I invite the isolation. It's not that something that I would say, okay, I'm going to isolate now. It just happens with the ebb and flow of life. But the
Right.
isolation can be so good. There are days I cut my cable cord because I was like, why am I paying this? I don't even turn on the TV. I don't even watch the news. And I am a news anchor because I had to redirect my focus and it was just noisy and static. And it clears the path. And so I would just encourage folks not to be afraid of the silence, not to be afraid of when there's either a moment or a season of isolation, because the old adage, isolation equals elevation. A lot of those are very true, but you can't be afraid to actually go through and move through them and actually learn what needs to be learned and get on the other side, because sometimes if you break from it too soon, you don't get what's there for you. So I totally agree with that. And I love that you again are creating these spaces to have these very honest conversations, because fear is real and it is okay. But
Yeah.
to be able to acknowledge that and then move through it and still press on, because doing for yourself, the whole idea of entrepreneurialism or just this transformation, it ain't for the weak. But we've never been weak. We've always been very resilient and powerful. And it takes folks like you, Darcel, to help us be reminded of that. So talk a little bit about your social media handles, how we can get in touch with you, how we can become a student of your knowledge and your ministry and your walk, and maybe sign up for some of these classes. Now, too bad I signed up, too bad for everybody else, but I'm sure you'll have some more. And I love that this is sold out. That is amazing. Congratulations to
So
you.
exciting. Thank you so much, Courtney. I appreciate this. And I appreciate just this platform and the space that you're creating. This is a part of that brain training, listening to podcasts like this in order to train the brain to understand what is possible and available. So my handles at Darcel Being on Instagram and on TikTok. The handle is at Law of Assumption Secrets, but my primary handle, it is Instagram right now. And I'm having, again, summer class that is already sold out. However, there is a wait list you can join, or you can even email me, darcel@darcelbeing.com, and I can send you that waitlist link. And again, most of all, I'm so excited for the 21-day challenge coming up in July, because so many times we are partakers of the next big thing, right? It's the course, it's the class, it's the master class. And what is really missing, it's the implementation. It's actually doing the thing. Get your foot off of the
Execution.
brake and the gas and execute it.
Yep.
1000%. A lot of people are in the elevator pressing 1 and 3, and I'm praying, but I'm not sure. And the key is get onto the field. Throw the
Do
ball,
it.
kick the ball, shoot the shot, do the thing. So it's going to be 21 days of doing the thing, and you will find out so much information about your patterns and all of that. So very exciting. And again, there'll be more information inside of the masterclass, or if you DM
Ooh.
me, I can even send you a link and you can join my email list and still be the first to receive the notification before it again goes to be
Yeah,
sold out.
so good, so good. Sometimes you just got to take that risk and give God something to bless. Plant that seed. And I heard somebody across
Yeah.
social media. I'm gonna look him up because his post, it just resonated with me. He said, "Make it exist, and then make it better later." But just make it exist
Ooh,
and then go about the process of making it better or improving it.
wow.
But you got to make it happen. You got to bring it into
Powerful.
existence first. I was like, "Ooh, okay, young sir, that,
Yeah,
that was
that's
a word. That
powerful.
was a word or
Yeah,
two. I know, right?" Darcel is spelled
very powerful.
Darcel. Darcel Being,
Correct.
at Darcel Being, as in like human being, Being. You are absolutely fabulous. I will be in the
Thank you.
Florida area, darling, in the middle of July, and we must break bread, get together and break bread. I
Yes,
can't wait to hug your
absolutely.
neck and just drink in
Yes.
all of this wonderful energy that you have. I appreciate you so much for
Thank you.
joining me today inside of Good Morning Girl. And I'll leave with one of your mantras. I love it. It says, believe, behave, become. So you have to believe it. And then, as we touched on, you have to behave in that manner. And then you as a result, you become that thing. And I think that's just a great message to leave folks with today.
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah,
Courtney.
indeed. Thank you so much, Darcel. We will see you soon. I appreciate you.